Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So, one thing that when Jesus was ministering and when he was teaching and he had his disciples and, come follow me, and he talked about the kingdom of God and rebuilding the temple and all of these things. And it there are instances where we can gather that those people around him had no idea what he was actually talking about. Sometimes we're that way too. I do not know what you're talking about. But they were looking for an actual kingdom. They were looking for a king to come in and rescue them from the rule that they were under and set up a kingdom and sit on the throne of David. And the kingdom of God that Jesus was talking about was not that kind of kingdom. Not yet, anyway. And so let's go to Luke chapter 17. I was just there. And we'll start at verse 20. And so, asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come. So see, the Pharisees are asking Jesus, when is the kingdom of God coming? So asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come, he replied to them by saying, the kingdom of God does not come with signs to be observed or with visible display, nor will people say, look, here it is, or see, there it is. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you, in your hearts, and among you it is surrounding you. So, if the kingdom of God comes in us, and we sit submissive and inactive, is there going to be any growth in the kingdom of God? None. So let's go now to Mark chapter 4, verse 30. Okay? And Jesus said, so he's teaching parables about the kingdom of God. And he said, with what can we compare the kingdom of God? Or what parable shall we use to illustrate and explain it? It is like a grain of mustard seed, which, when sown upon the ground, is the smallest of all seeds upon the earth. Yet after it is sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest of all herbs and puts out large branches so that the birds of the air are able to make nests and dwell in its shade. Until we were studying this, I think it was the last time that we were studying Psalm 1, I didn't realize that the mustard seed would produce a tree. I suppose I just didn't really know where what mustard grew into. But I actually have pictures on my phone. If it's a tiny, tiny, tiny seed, and then I have a picture right beside it of an actual mustard tree. And I think this is a fantastic, well, of course it's fantastic because it was the words of God, but it's a really understandable, easily understandable analogy in that the kingdom of God is within us. Okay, so that mustard seed planted inside of us, and it grows and grows and grows and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it produces for others, right? So this mustard tree, this herb, puts out large branches so that the birds of the air are able to make nests in it and dwell in its shade. And see, if that seed, that word that's on the inside of us, doesn't grow and doesn't produce branches, then there are, the birds have no place to dwell in its shade. See, the world needs believers to be active. The world needs us to shine our light. The world has need of what is inside of us. And remember, if you go back to the parable in Mark 4 of the parable of the soils, it's called the parable of the sower, but it's really about the soil that they're sown in. There's stony ground, there's I'm looking at Jesus' explanation. So there's full of rocks, so that's stony ground, Other seed fell among thorns. Some fell into good and well-adapted soil, and some fell along the path. And so that seed that's inside of us, the one that fell upon the path, the seed that fell on the path, the birds came and ate it up. And so that seed could not produce. And I do not want whatever God has placed on the inside of me to be lacking. See, we're all here for purpose. We're all part of the same body. And He has deposited things inside of you that are necessary for such a time as this. And Satan would have us to just stand back as bystanders because we are timid, or we're afraid, or we don't want to be out front, or we don't want to be seen. And those are all lies, because what He's put in you, what God has put in you, what He's designed in you is necessary for right now. And so the gospel of Jesus Christ, the good news that we have been set free, demands more than a quiet yes, and we just take care of my 4 and no more until we go to heaven. That's not what He called us to do. That's not who He called us to be. We'll pick up here tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.